Okay, I think we're good to get started now. So we're going to swap this over. Hello, everyone. Specifically the people who don't like Dr. Pepper. Hello, hello. And to Dr. Pepper fans, I guess it's fine you're here too. Alright, so where I left off, there were a few different code things that I am not particularly a fan of. And I kind of wanted to make a list of things that I wanted to tackle code-wise. I'm just kidding. Hello, Dr. Pepper people. One of them is my goat, JW. Alright, so code-wise, what I wanted to tackle was I kind of wanted to start the combat system, which included health, rolling for damage, and equipment. This is probably going to be very similar to how Caves of Qud does it, maybe, potentially. As well as a little bit of enemy AI starting. So we're not going to be making full decisions on whether we should attack or not. It's just kind of figuring out line of sight, figuring out pathfinding. I doubt I'm going to get to anything item-wise or world tiles, but we shall see. So I guess the first thing would be to just get rid of this. Do I work as a dev full-time? I do. I work as a web dev during my day job and part-time game dev. I still need to set up Twitch and YouTube chat integration because I imagine anyone on Twitch would not see the conversation going on YouTube and vice versa. So let's completely kill this component because I don't like the way it's set up in the slightest. And we're just going to do a health change. How do you play Voices of Void? I'm so confused. You scan for signals in space, and then you send them off to a doctor who gives you money for doing it, and then spooky shit happens. It's a great game. I honestly might hang out in VC after stream and play it. We'll see. Because I have been loving that game so much. Voices of the Void. I'll quickly pull it up. We're not going to focus on it too much. I want to get some coding done. I only have 2 months for this. Voices of the Void is a horror game where you scan for satellite signals from space, process them, send them to a doctor, and then spooky shit happens. There's a lot of really cool things about it that isn't just horror. Because horror doesn't happen all the time, so it's kind of like you're worried that it's going to happen soon. So you never really know when something scary is going to happen. I love it. Very good game. It's free. It's in pre-alpha. And it runs really well. So how do I want to set up this health component? I actually no. I don't want to do a health component. Because I think that would maybe be relying or hoping that things change too much in the future. I think I'm just going to attach it to the entity. I'm going to go back on literally my most popular video and say I'm just going to drop health on this. Which is what I did here. So let's say, do I have action type attack? Sorry, I have to figure out where I was. So attack, I have any to-dos. Rename this. I think that's fine. So I want to make an attack, which means I'll need an attack class. So I'll do a data class of type attack. Also, is the music fine? Is the music just a little bit too loud? Could it be a little bit quieter? I just want to make sure that I'm not drowning myself out with Cave Story currently. So I think by default, the attack will have a damage. Say like 10 is, or no. So I kind of want to, I don't know why that pulled up on this monitor. So Caves of Qud is the game that I'm taking the main inspiration from. And it uses a really interesting attack mechanic, very similar to D&D, and I want to see if I can find it. So here's the wiki. So let's say I look for like a mace or something. I'm sure that there are maces. So they use either a flat amount or, and I think there's like a bronze axe. Some sort of axe does it. Like this would roll, so 1d6 plus 1. So I think I want to adopt something similar where we'll roll the d6 and then add whatever constant onto it. And I think I want to do something very similar for this. So let's do that now. So I guess the first thing is like, what dice, how do we want to do the dice roll? I think I'll just have a constant damage, which I'll say set to like 1. And then I'll have a dice roll times, which we'll say is 1. And then a dice size, which we'll say is like 6. So this attack, for example, would be a 1d6 plus 1, which is what we saw before. So that would be equivalent to this. And I'm quickly going to write a function to just get damage, or calc damage probably. So let's see. So we'll do a randaf in range or and I range, because the dice can't be a float. It doesn't need to be a float. This doesn't need to be a float. Everything can be ints. We'll just play that game. So the randi range from 0 to, is this inclusive? From and to inclusive. Yes. So I can just do from, I guess, 1 to 6. Dice size. Our total equals 0. And for I in range. I guess I can just do the number. Dice roll times. We'll add onto the total. And then at the end of that, I will say total plus equals constant damage. So that should effectively be like the D&D damage system. Like very simple. Then I would like to give this to something. So damage rolling is done. That's easy. We'll say health is done for now. Or no, sorry, health is not done because we actually have to introduce ways of interacting with health. So funk, take damage for now. This song feels a little bit extra loud. Maybe not. So, do I want to emit health changed always? I don't know. We will emit died. Health is equal to 0. We die, and health changed dot emit. specify this as an int, because I don't think we're going to be doing flow damages. Excuse me, I don't think we're going to be doing flow damages in this game. And I think that's good for now. So we'll say health is good. Then I guess for combat, I would also like to add the attack action implementation. So this kind of goes back to this grid world thing that we're doing, where we're kind of using enums. Maybe I would like to kind of change this to use something similar to the strategy pattern, where instead of having this action type move and doing an enum like this, I would have action type attack, attack entity, entity action, something like that. Instead, the action itself would have like just an action dot perform, something like that, and then pass in the entity, which I think would make sense. I think for now, I'll drop a to-do. We should do this. But I'm not going to worry too much about architecture right now until we get a little bit further into this. So let's do this. So in this case, if I remember what I did on Tuesday, it was the entity kind of defers its own actions. So for example, let's see. So if I can move to this location, it becomes move, otherwise it becomes attack. So for now, if there's an enemy in the way, which is considered can't move to, we want to attack the enemy. So we're going to do that. So I can just, where the hell did my code go? Let's make this function, attack entity. So in this case, I can grab the entity at the location. So target entity equals, so we have the entities array or map. I can do get. I might want to make a helper function for this because we have this. I think it's fine. So this should get us this. What's wrong with this? Oh, wait, no, this is the vector 2. Okay, oops, sorry. So in this case, if we have the target entity, then I will just, for now, I want to print it out just to make sure this is working. And I'm also going to tell the enemies to stand still. Hey, Miko, how's it going? I don't know if that's pronounced right, but what's up? So for the base entity, I want to just return... I don't know why I'm making a new variable. I'm just going to return a movement weight with no direction because weight doesn't need a direction. So I think right now, if I move... Okay, yeah, they stand still. So now whenever I press to the right, this should print out the enemy. Great. I can also change this to print the enemy's health, which I can. And then I would like to do... Oh, I have no idea why Dude, I'm so fucking stupid. Miko, I don't know why I didn't realize that this is you from the Discord. I think it's just because the profile picture and there's like 18 different letters rather than your like 5 6-letter username on Discord. Hey, Daniel, thanks. I appreciate it. So, the target entity... This feels really stupid to do after, like, my most popular video literally said, don't do this. But I'm going to make a function called, like, attack. Which is going to pass in the attack. I need something else. Do it attacked? Process attack. There we go. So it passes in the attack. Does nothing. And then I can say just, for now, we'll do take damage. Make this a private variable, private function. I once donated to a Patreon of a podcast. They said my nickname in the episode, they pronounced it my cock. Wow. That was not even on the list of things to say in my mind. Like, there was Maiko, I guess, but my cock is insane. So we can call calc damage on the attack, and then we can do process attack, passing in a new attack. So the new attack, I'll just make a func in it. And for that, it will be... Actually, no. We don't need that right now. I just thought about a way I want to change this in a second. And that is related to... I want to say, yeah, this weapon resources, because we're going to do resources a little bit today. So this, for now, should roll a random amount. So process attack will do take damage. This will get passed in. I'm just going to print out took damage. I think it is %D. I think. That looks right. So now whenever I go up to this, it'll process and it'll deal between 1 and 6 damage. And it didn't work. Invalid type. Take damage in no 2D entity. Cannot convert from nil to end. I didn't return the total. Okay, so took 3 damage, 4 damage, 2 damage, 5. So this should never go above 6, and it should never go below 1. Or sorry, it should... Because it's a 1d6 plus 1, it should never go below 2 or above 7. Which is what we're seeing. Okay, cool. So we have the world's most basic combat system down. So we have attack actions. There's no equipment yet, because that's going to be tied to the resources. And I think... Let me also commit this really quickly. Because I want to have this broken down so I can go back and revisit it later. So we're going into Godot. No, wrong project. This is called Stream Roguelike. Okay, cool. So that's pushed up to GitHub. I think if you wanted to follow along with this, anyone at home, and kind of see what's going on, this is available publicly currently. It's not great. It doesn't work right now. It is the most basic game you could ever have of just walking around and doing nothing, but it will be open source the entire time. Okay, so next thing, equipment would be really cool. What is the app with the checklist called? This is called Obsidian. It is a note-taking app where you can use Markdown. So, for example, you can also put in images. You can make checklists, or sorry, not checklists, bullet point lists, and other things. So, for example, I usually use these for stream plans. You can do hyperlinks to link between things. And for checklists, can I see the raw? I guess I can't. Source mode. For checklists, you can do them like this, where it's like a dash, a space, open brackets, and then another space. And then in non-source mode, you can click on them to check them off. It's a free app. I love it. I haven't been using it for very long, but I would highly recommend it because it is really, really good. Okay, back to this though. So let's say there is a Kanban community plugin for Obsidian. I actually still have not checked that out. I know a lot of people really like Kanban boards because I think that's what Trello is, right? Let me see. Yeah, so these. So it's like these boards where you put things into a backlog. You say when you're working on them, once it's done and ready to go. I know people really, really like these. There's also one in Godot, I want to say. Kanban tasks? Is it this one? It might be this one. It's either this one. Full on production. Who are you? Why do I recognize your name? Oh, this guy... Sorry, I'm doing a bunch of connections in my mind. Yeah, okay, I know this guy. Kind of. He has a pull request open that I really care about, which is this one. But yeah, I would also recommend this one. It's probably this one. Both of these are probably good though. So, if you like Kanban boards, you can have one directly inside of Godot. So what were we doing? So weapon resources. I wanted to kind of play around with resources a little bit. And for that, sorry, my microphone is... Ooh, okay. So let's say I wanted to make a bunch of different attacks. I would have to specifically make these with different dice size, dice rolls, and things like that. I don't want to do that in code. I want to be able to change that on the fly. So I'm going to make... I guess what would this be under? This would be a data class, kind of. I'm going to make a weapon resource. So for this, it's going to be class name. I'll call it basic weapon because I'm sure that I'll have more complex weapons in the future. And so the basic weapon is just going to be something as simple as having these variables from the attack. I wish that navigation worked. So these variables from the attack will be exported. I didn't know about the integrated one. Really should look at more plugins. I feel that as well. I tend to just never use plugins. I think the only plugin I've ever used was the Godot Jolt one. So this one. And I just, other than that, I never really look at plugins. But I know people really, really like them. Like Dialogic is a really popular one that helps make dialogues easier. But I never reach for plugins usually. We don't need to group this. We have 3 properties. If it gets more complicated, we'll do that. But and then instead of rolling the attack on the actual attack, I'm going to go to weapon. I'm going to make a function called calc damage. I'm also going to make a function called get attack. This is going to return an attack. And all it's going to do is it's going to say attack is a new attack. And inside of that attack, we're going to set the damage equal to calc damage. And then we're going to return it. And that's not going to make sense now until I change this to have a damage. We're not seeing what I'm writing. So 1 damage. I guess we'll say 0 damage by default. Kill that. I think Terrain 3D has a plugin now. Yes, I do know about that one, and I know people really like the Terrain 3D plugin. Wherever it is, it's one of these. This one. I know people really like this one, but I don't use 3D enough to care about it. Like, to have used it enough. Sorry, care about it was the wrong word. I do like it. I'm really appreciative of it. I just don't use 3D. At the same time, I've had bad experiences with plugins and other apps going away and making where I need to rethink a lot of stuff. I implemented Dialogic into my game. It really lacks performance. Really? It needs to run 1 to 2 seconds before it opens the dialogue. That is insane. That is very bad performance. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I forgot how I pronounced your name, Miko. I'm right there with you. I don't reach for plugins usually. And that's one thing that I really like about Godot is just like building my own shit. Godot really works well with that. So, I don't know. I feel like it just kind of leans itself into making your own stuff. Teammate on weekly meeting a week later was saying that we should check NPM for a library that does it. And I just got to say, oh, never mind, I already programmed it. I was also the same way with NPM where I just like... I never reached for plugins, but I also think there's a nice middle ground where a lot of people reach for like there's the, what is it? NPM is number, I think, this one. Like, this is stupid. This is such a stupid library idea that you should never be reaching for this, but I know a lot of people do. I mean, it has 68 million weekly downloads. But there's definitely a nice middle ground between reaching for every plugin and never reaching for a plugin. Okay, so what was I doing? This. So I'm going to make a init function as well. So what did I just do? Instead of having the attack class calculate the damage and do the rolling itself, I'm instead going to have a weapon resource that we attack with. And that itself will handle the damage calculation. So what does that look like? Well, I'm going to create a folder called resources. So this is not going to be code related. There's not going to be any code in this folder. Inside of this, I'm going to create weapons. And I'm going to make a new resource of type basic weapon. I'm just going to call this like... Let's see, what does this asset pack have? Let me open it up in Sprite, because I think that's going to be easier to look at. Can you recommend streaming developing your games, or do you find yourself less productive? So I find myself, if we're talking strictly like the amount of code that I get done while on stream versus off stream working on a game, I get more code done off stream because I can kind of just like burrow into the code and do my own shit. Maybe I think it might end up being a little bit cleaner code because I'm doing it in front of people and I'm not going to do something that would be like perceived super poorly in front of people. But also it helps me stay a little bit motivated because like if I don't feel like working on a game one day and I'm not streaming it, then I won't do it. But if I'm like, I don't feel like working on a game today, but I know I'm supposed to stream it, you know, my ass is opening up Godot. The last thing I want to do is get made fun of by the people in my Discord for not streaming a game today. Why is this? Oh, because this needs... Sorry, I just wanted to view this. See what kind of weapons we were working with. Hey, Vector, how's it going? We are making... You can look at the to-do list. I kind of put down a few different things that I would like to work through. I added damage rolling, health, and a little attack action. We're not super far into it so far. And these things will almost certainly change. But right now we're just kind of working on resources. Loved your how to make your code simpler with composition. It's so nice with Godot. You still get weirdness if you, for example, build a damage defense system like in Path of Exile. It's definitely not perfect. There's definitely a lot of times you would want to use inheritance. There's definitely times you would want to avoid composition. I mean, for example, right here, I'm not using composition. I'm just tossing health directly onto the enemy because I don't see that it's going to need to be composed like that later. And if it does need to be composed like that later, I can kind of change how I'm accessing things in code. I did an integration project by pair programming at work last year. We had a max of like 4 hours at a time, because then the code productivity just went down, but overall it helped code quality, I think. Absolutely. At some point, you just kind of like start staring at the code and then you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you kind of just like start doing whatever you can to get progress in. Full game, have you implemented a full open world MMO yet? That's actually, so I don't want to spoil anything. I think that's what we're doing next stream. So on Sunday, that's what we're going to be doing, thankfully. You know, there's a plugin in the asset lib that just does the entire MMO for you. You don't have to worry about anything, you know, just takes care of everything. That makes sense, definitely thinking about starting myself, but I'm already way too deep into the game and don't know if people will be interested in a game which is just getting finished. They absolutely would be, because that's usually the part of the game that you don't see nearly as much. Sorry, I see a message really quickly before I go back on that. Yes, this is from Kenny. This is not made by me. This is one of Kenny's mini open source, free to use assets from kenny.nl. You can go to assets. You have different tags here. This one specifically is the 1-bit pack, I think. It's just this one. So it's this one. It's free. Or you can get his all-in-one bundle. You can pay him a little bit of money. You get all of them downloaded as well. I think a couple of them are exclusive to this, but I don't know about that. Yeah, Kenny has a bunch of like everything. Would recommend it. Back on the streaming thing, I think a lot of people don't get to see the end of a game development cycle. So if you are looking at streaming it, I think people would definitely find some sort of interest in seeing a game that has already come along a little bit. I think we're just going to use one of these axes. So I'll just call this an axe back on this. But yeah, people would definitely be interested in seeing the end of game development. The end of game development. What a fun way to say that. So we'll just say that this is a 1d2. So that would be able to roll between a 1 and a 2, I guess. Yeah, the end is a little bit boring, hunting down bugs, but it kind of depends on what you're doing. Like if you're doing like playtesting or excuse me, hold on. Okay, sorry. If you're doing like playtesting, then for sure it would be fun. If you're doing something like tweaking values to check it, like that's not super great. But I mean, I know me, I would kind of like to see stuff like that personally. Like seeing people modeling levels or like just kind of filling out the content. I mean, there's also no harm in doing it. If no one shows up, I mean, you're still working on your game. So it doesn't really, like, hurt to do it, I guess. And it would probably help you be a little bit more consistent. Let's see. So what was I doing here? So now that I have a weapon, I kind of want to give this to the player. And I'm just going to say, I don't need an export. I need a var weapon. And I will just load in this basic weapon for now. And then when we attack, I will set the... Where is... Attack entity action.new. I'm going to over-engineer just a little bit because I can see this becoming a problem later. I want there to be an attack action. And this attack action will extend entity action. Last name, attack action. And I'm going to use a basic weapon. And then I think for that, that's all we'll do for now. Sorry, hold on. I can see fine-tuning being boring, especially when it's just like switching from point 1 to point 2. Bug hunting is definitely fun. I agree with that. Because it's like, you just kind of like are doing things and you're like, what the hell is happening? Why is this box blowing up in my face? It might be a little frustrating to do, but I think it would not be super frustrating to watch. Unless you get like angry and like are audibly upset about it. I think most people would kind of find it fun. Because it would be you like tweaking like just a bunch of shit. Whenever I get an idea for an indie game I want to make, I always come across the problem of art. Having to do the music, sprites, fonts, etc. all by yourself to make the game original is so hard. You do not need to make it original. Oh, hey, Billabong. How's it going? I recognize you from another stream, I think. Do you watch any other Godot developers on stream? Sorry, back to the art thing. You don't have to use original art. You just kind of have to use art that works well together. Because there are definitely a lot of like really small, like lesser known asset packs that you can use. And that would not cause your game to look the same as every other game because only like 2 games in the world have used it. Or even if you're using like Kenny's art pack, like this, I think outside of game development, people don't really know that like assets are shared. So I don't think it's like an issue to use assets. You just kind of have to find ones that fit well together. That's much more important than finding unique assets. Oh, that's funny. So you found them through me. Yeah, I really like watching Code and Quellis. I don't think... They're not streaming today, are they? Oh, no, they totally are. You guys should follow Quellis and Code. They're really, really good programmers, and they have a good time over there. Let's see. Gameplay is key. There's so many people who don't recognize if a game is using an asset pack. Absolutely. A lot of people have no clue. A lot of games... Like, I opened up mobile, and the top game on the Play Store was using the same asset pack as Bracky's, like, platformer tutorial. I don't remember what it was, but this tutorial right here.
Godot.
Oh shit, hold on. Sorry, I'm logged into my personal YouTube account where I watch League of Legends videos because I don't want to plague the Bitlitic YouTube channel with that. So here, this asset pack uses, it's a free asset pack. I've seen a really popular game on the Play Store using that, and people had no idea. People had no idea. Can you show the game components? I don't understand composition in Godot. This game doesn't have components currently, so I can't. But the idea is if there's something that you can, like, attach to a creature, like you can, I guess, like compose, like you can stick different parts together to create an enemy or like an entity or something, that's like a place you would want to use composition. So like everything in Godot actually is like a component. Like for example, let me open up a project that's like a platformer or something. I can show you. Do I have... Yeah, here we go. We'll use this one. It should be probably good enough. Godot. Godot. Yeah, I use Godot. I say Godot. And I only slightly look down upon people that say Godot. Or Godot. Let's see. So the player should have their own scene here. So everything in Godot is actually entirely composition based, whether you know it or not. I think the difficulty that you're coming up with is like making your own components. So like this player node is a character body 2D, and you compose its different parts out of different like node types. So for example, this has a collision now. The collision, you composed it with this collision shape. I have this area 2D, which is kind of a node that is like composed. So anything that I want to have this pickup range on, I can also toss onto another node. For example, this movement controller. This is a component that all it does is it is attached to a player object and handles the movement for them. So if I wanted to, I could delete this whenever I play the game. It shouldn't break, hopefully, if it launches. This one might not launch. Okay, it launches. So the player still works. You just can't move. So I'm pressing the keys right now. You cannot move. But if I add back in the movement controller, this might update in real time. It doesn't. Adding back in the movement controller, we move. So components are kind of just used so you can like stack them together to compose an object at the end. So it's kind of just, if you can split it out, do it. I mean, maybe not always, but it's kind of the idea. So you don't stack everything inside of this one character body 2D. Instead, you control it with certain things. Sorry, let me catch up with Chad. I was in the video, the weeds for that. I just closed the project. I'll open it back up. No problem. I mean, it's Godot. Thankfully, it's not Unity, so it doesn't take like 8 years to open. There we go. Project's back open. Want to make a custom thumbnail for your stream? I was just wondering. I think I could attract more viewers. I might do that over the weekend. I haven't had a super large amount of time to do that this week. This week has actually been really busy. And I don't particularly care that much about attracting viewers. Like, it would be nice to show it to more people, but it's not like a super important thing to me. So it's definitely not been a priority. So this player script has a few different gross things about it, because this was for Game Jam code. I think maybe a player script that would make more sense would be from this project. And I might eat my words because I don't remember what the player script looks like in this. But I believe the player should actually have like very few things in the actual player.gt file. Yeah, so here we go. So this is my player script. I have a few different variables that I want to pass between components. So like if we're in the middle of gliding, this gets set to true so other components can read that. I have a couple other things. Like flight mode, I believe, is my debug. I have a print debug. I have like a few helper functions that other components can reach down into. So like movement controllers care about what direction you're facing. There's certain things like if we're trying to collide only one way, we'll enable this flag on the actual player body. So there's a bunch of different things. But for the most part, all of the actual behavior is delegated to components. So inside of this, like I have player movement is its own component. So this is all of my player's movement. From jumping to gliding to running to falling through platforms, things like that. All of that is handled in here. For handling animation, all of that is delegated to this one animation file. For getting knocked back, that's delegated here. For checking whether the ground is safe, that's handled here. So it's kind of just like, this is used for linking things together. Everything else goes into other components. That I don't believe is right. I guess it is. This is maybe, you shouldn't do this. This was stupid. You don't need a jump component. No, this is not real. I was showing things off at stream, actually. Sorry. I was like, that doesn't make sense why I would do this. I was showing things off to people. Okay, back to the roguelike. How's the roguelike going? It is going well. It is going really well. Somewhat. So I have the ability to move around, like an old school roguelike. And I have the ability to attack. It just doesn't do anything currently. So, for example, let's go back to this. So back to the actual grid world. So now that we're doing the actual attack, I can see that this is expected to be a type of attack action at this point. Because if this is anything else, this should only be attack action. I will read chat in just a second. I wanted to get this done really quickly because I have something in my brain. Attack action dot get attack. Is that what I did? No. Weapon dot get attack. Yes. Okay, so now this should work. So now I should only deal 1 or 2 damage and not more to this enemy, and it doesn't work. Why? Because I never passed in the correct attack. Okay, that's fine. Okay. I was watching a tutorial of a simple game. I tried to learn Godot more, and after checking it, noticed they made a whole game in one scene to have access to other nodes functions easily. I was wondering if you have to use signals to refer to other scenes gathered in one main scene. If you have to use signals to refer to other scenes gathered in one main scene. Usually you don't want to refer to other things. If there's a way that you can structure it that I might need a more specific question. I won't lie. I may need a more specific question on that. I was doing a roguelike in Godot, got stuck doing a chunk system on map generation and pathfinding. I will be using pathfinding soon, so we will see if that ends up being an issue. But I don't think it will end up being a problem. Because I'm going to be using A-Star Grid 2D, which is built in. Maybe they were talking about singletons? Vector, what were you talking? Like, could you give me a more concrete example with, like, how you would refer to other scenes? Because typically, you would only want to refer to, like, the top level scenes. So, like, the player does not care what's in the enemy scene. So, like, if there was a collision shape in here, the player should never go enemy.get collision shape. There should be, like, you should not be reaching into scenes from other scenes. That's usually how I would do that. I would say if you're in one scene, reaching over into another scene, there's usually a better way to do it. Maybe not always, but usually. So what's the problem with this? The problem with this right now is inside of my player, instead of passing in... I'm always using an entity action. Instead, what I should be doing is I should say action equals attack action dot new. And then we can say action dot weapon equals weapon. And then this should work. So if I attack it, it should do 1 or 2 damage. And it doesn't, because non-existent function calc damage in base. Okay. Sorry, I keep forgetting so many different, like, small things. There we go. Okay. 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 2 damage. I guess statistically, probably unlikely that we're going to get more or less than 1 damage or 2 damage. So that is... I guess we should double check that. So if I make a new weapon, so resources, weapons, I'm going to make a sword. Resource, weapon, we're going to call this just sword. And we're going to make it a 1d3 plus 1, which means the highest amount of damage it could do is 4. So we roll a d3, add 1 to it, between 2 and 4 damage. And then in the player, instead of loading the axe, I'll load the sword. 4 damage, 3 damage, 4 damage, 2 damage. There we go. How OP are the resources? Resources are amazing for things like this, where if you know that you're going to have a bunch of different things that kind of have the same functionality, but could have different, like different values. Like, in the basic concept, like, a weapon is the same. They all use the same sort of, like, rules. But individual weapons might have different attack values, or maybe we could have, like, a damage type in here. So say you have a player scene and you have an enemy scene you have saved. You want to use them in the game scene, and then you want to access a function in game script from the player script. In the game's script. So that, it kind of means if you're talking up to a parent, so like, let's say this is like my game scene, and I want the player to access something to the game, you could signal up from the player. Like, if you want to call like a reset function, you would instead have like a player died signal. Then you would, sorry, I just saw that something happened. It says message retracted. Was that you deleting that, or was that auto flagged or something? I don't know how YouTube chat works. Assume you have a world scene that the player and the enemy exist in. If you want to have the player attack the enemy, you'd have the 2 areas, listen for that, and fire an event. Yes. But if you're talking about like the player calls up to the game. You don't usually want to do that. What you could do is, if you wanted some sort of overarching manager, I would say use an auto load, or you may also know them known as a singleton. That's the other word that you could use. So, for example, you could go to project settings globals, add an auto load called like game manager, so that no matter where the player is, they can call game manager.reset. And then the game manager would call down to the level. I would say that. So typically you would try to avoid calling up to something unless you guaranteed know it's there and it's not a huge deal. Like, for example, I use get owner a lot. I would say that's fine. I mean, it's all fine as well. It's just kind of like you kind of want to keep your code clean, and that's something that tends to lead you to cleaner code. Stardew Valley's soundtrack is so good. It's kind of criminal how little Stardew Valley I have in this. I only have 5 songs from the Stardew Valley OST. I need to add more because they are so good. Okay, so back to this. I guess we can check a couple things off. So we use equipment in combat now, and we have basic weapon resources. We don't have items. I think I'll call combat good for now. So I would like to do something terrible now, which is probably line of sight. And I'm going to cheat a little bit, which is that I'm going to look at code that I've already written for it. Let me pull up, I'm pulling up an old project. Yeah, here we go. So I already have code that I've already written for this for an old project, and I'm probably just going to steal that whole cell. So let's go ahead and try to figure out how we would want to do this. Oh, you know what? I even cited my sources. This was not something I did on stream. This was not something that I did for stream. This was a personal project. There we go. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful post by people that are much smarter than I am. We're going to steal that. So how do I want to do this? So I can either delegate this to the world, or I can delegate this to the enemy. I'm gonna ban you if you say that again. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do that, but it does make me a little sad to call me Stinklytic. So where do I want to do this? So in the enemy, I should be able to figure out... Oh, hey, Symbol24, how's it going? I just got a raid on Twitch of 3. I need to set up alerts for that so it shows up, but how's it going? We're working on a classic roguelike. We're not very far into it. We are 2 days into it, where we have movement and we have damage. And that's it currently. But hello, hello. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to use this algorithm that I took from this Godot forum post probably about a year ago. And I'm going to create a line of sight diagram or something. So we're going to do that. So how do I do this? Are you also a Godot game developer? And if so, what are you currently working on? So where do I want this to belong? I kind of want to disobey the thing that I literally just told VectorCat and store this somewhere on the grid and then have the enemy query the grid for that. And I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to say get path 2. So we're going to go from a vector to I. Or sorry, I guess path is not going to be right. I think we're going to do get line 2. And we're going to say from vector2i to vector2i. And we're going to return, not void, but an array of vector2i's. Do I have diagonal square movement like in Caves of Qud? Abso-fucking-lutely. Because after playing Caves of Qud, it's actually the exact same movement as Caves of Qud. So if you look at the input, it's like number pad keys. It is 1-to-1 Caves of Qud movement currently. You can even press 5 to wait. So if I make the enemies walk down, if I say action type move, vector 2i, 0, 1, and if I press 5, the enemies move down. So it is literally like Caves of Qud is my biggest inspiration for this currently. I'm also a Godot game dev. I have a main project, but recently I've been doing a lot of game jams, so I decided to make a bunch of plugins for people to use in game jams or small projects. Okay, like what kind of plugins? Is it something like Terrain 3D, where it's like something you use in engine to create games? Or is it something like the Kanban boards, where you kind of use it to organize outside of games? Like, does it affect the world or no? Just finished a project, or a packed UI with menu and ton of stuff out of the box to do menus. Okay, so something like actually that would be in the final product of the game. Since you told me about Caves of Qud, I was sucked in. I spent so many hours in 2 days. It's embarrassing. It is surprising that you've never heard of Caves of Qud. It is so good. Let me look up this person's name. Simple24. Simple Audio Manager. Okay, is this something like use audio 2D and 3D, create audio file resources? What does this do? Is it just playing an audio at a thing so it handles like channels for you? So you can like play if music's null, play that. Okay. That's like just like nice helper plugins. I really like that. Those are handy. Simple Scene Manager. Okay, so this is like swapping out current scenes, I'm assuming. Oh, it's like levels. Okay. Oh, that's sick. I really like plugins like that. I really, really like them. I don't use them, but I do really like them because I know a lot of people do. Yeah, Caves of Qud is so good. So good. I want to open Steam to see how many hours I have in it. But I don't want to open up Steam currently. Also try ADOM. You are so right. Try ADOM as well. I don't know if you were here. Nico, were you here when I did the game design document? I don't know if you were. Let me see if I can pull it up. So here's the game design document that I stole from JW. It's funny you mentioned ADOM because it's actually... No, I didn't put it in here. Fuck. I didn't put it in here. But I think I put it in here. No, okay, but I put it in the list. Okay. I put it in the list. It is another big inspiration. I actually have not played very much of ADOM. It is a little bit harder to play than Caves of Qud and a little bit more obtuse, but it is really good. I would also recommend Moonring. It's less open world roguelike and more RPG in the same fashion and movement system as an old school roguelike. And Daggerfall is like an old school roguelike but 3D. So all three of these are games that I would highly recommend. They're very good. Moonring is very good. Very, very good. I have not played it nearly as much as I should. It is really good, though. Okay, so back to this. Did I decide on a tutorial video for complicated saving processes in Godot? I have not yet. That is... let me see if I can pull up this list without showing off everything. Can I hide this? So it is in my list of things that I'm kind of curious about. So there is saving loading overview, high level of how to save game state. So it is in my list of things to check out. Maybe this weekend, whenever I have some time, I will go over that. So it is definitely in my list, though. Don't worry, I did not forget about you. Okay, so what was I doing now? Line of sight stuff. So I can kill this for now. So the idea for line of sight, I kind of wish I had like a grid system to put in the background of this. But either way, so the line of sight is like from one location to another location, draw a line. If any of those are obscure, like tiles, line of sight is no. So I think that's how I'm going to do that. And I have this function here to do that. So I'm going to go into game world, grid world, sorry. So here's func get line 2. I need, let me save this off to a scene, scenes, grid world. And then in here, I'm going to add a node, which I'm going to call pathfinding helper. Do I need to do that? No. No, that's stupid. Why would I ever do that? I'm just going to make a util class for that. So under source, I'm going to make a util folder because I haven't had to yet. Get a new script. I'm going to call this ASCII art for real old school vibes. I might do ASCII art. Why did I type pathing? What was that? Pathfinder? Pathfinding. Pathfinding util. We'll do that. But I don't know. I really do like this Kenny pack. So I might just end up using that. I'm not a huge fan of the ASCII art for old school roguelikes though. I won't lie. Like whenever I play Dwarf Fortress, I use the textured version off of Steam. Also, does anyone have any music from like video games that they could recommend? Because I have this playlist, which is 4 hours of video game music mostly. And I would love to find some more that are like kind of similar relaxing vibe to just use as background music. So if anyone has any of that, do recommend it. Back to pathfinding util. I'm going to make a class pathfinding util. And it's going to have a static func get line 2. It's going to take in a vector 2i. It's going to take in class name. And it's going to take in a second vector 2i. And it's going to return out an array of vector 2i. Yeah, you can post your Spotify playlist. I think... sorry, I just read a message. I had another tutorial idea for you, if you could, about how to use singletons properly. That is also... Oh, hold up. That is not a file. That is in here as well. Like, general autoload video. That is in here as well. It is funny that you say another could be finite state machines. I know there are many videos out there, but I'd like your take on it. I have some news for you. I don't know if... Do you know? If we go to YouTube, actually, I'm pretty sure. This is not my front page. This is an incognito window. If I look up, like, Godot state machine... Mine is the first video that comes up. Like on finite state machines. Is there something else about finite state machines that I could go over, or... Oh, a finite stake machine. Okay, yeah, I could totally do that, actually. I think it's called a grill, actually. A finite stake machine. Okay, sorry, let me go back to this. I just think it's funny to see the... Oh, you should make a video on state machines. I would like your take. And then it's like, well, actually, I have one. Infinite stake machines. Dude, an infinite stake machine would be like the best thing ever. Okay, So I'm just going to copy paste this. Sorry. I'm going to copy paste this from the forum post because I don't have time to think about the math. So what this does, and I'm sure that this shows it somewhere, is this will create a line between 2 points using... I don't know. There was an algorithm that it said. But it's essentially the line of sight that I want. So, yeah, these variable names are really, like... You can tell that this was written by someone who's really good at math, because instead of being, like, delta x, delta y, they're just like, fuck it. I need 2 letters, and that's it. So, I'm not going to question it. I'm not testing any of this. I think there was something that I changed about this whenever I originally whenever I originally stole the code. But I don't remember it. So we're just going to say that this returns a straight line between 2 points on a grid. And then for that, so back to grid world. My brain is getting cooked just by looking at that. I absolutely agree. Like, there's so much in here that is just insane. Brain steak, yeah. That's what it is. Your brain is a finite steak machine whenever you look at this. Okay, so in the get line 2, so I'm actually not going to do this. I'm going to make a function. We'll return a boolean, and I'm going to call this can see. So I'm going to say var line 2 equals path finding util dot get line 2 from 2. So this should work. I'll just return true for now. So if you don't know, static functions inside of classes can be called from anywhere. You don't have to have a reference to it. It's very similar to how autoloads work, but like there's no instance of this class. I can just call pathfindingutil.getLine2 from anywhere ever because it's static. Similarly, if we have a static var count, I can call pathfindingutil.count from anywhere and it'll get the current value. And if I call pathfinding.count and then I add 1 to it, it would update that variable for everyone who references it. Just like a quick little aside. So for this line 2, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for point in line 2. I'm going to say entity equals entities.get entity at point. Because this is a vector 2i. Why does this not work? Variable type is being inferred from a variant value, so we typed as variant. Entity. So these are guaranteed to return entities or nothing. So if there's no entity, I'll say if there is an entity, we'll say return false. Otherwise, we will return true. And I want to say... Oh, no, okay. If from.x equals 2.x. Okay, so this is what I did. This was the change that I made, which was if we're testing the same square that we're starting on, we don't want it to count. So that whenever an enemy looks on like a line of sight to the player, it only counts themselves. I want to say. Linkin Park just got a new singer. I wonder what people are going to think about that. Like, I wonder what opinions are going to be. Are they a good singer? I actually have not been caught up with Linkin Park in a while. I do not know who that is. Maybe that's embarrassing on my part. I do not know who Emily Armstrong is. Also, I didn't say it. Welcome back, JW. How's it going? Music group Dead Sarah. I do not know who that is. Sorry. So I think this will work. So let's just do a little test. Do I not have... Oh no, it's called entity. So in this, whenever the enemy processes, what we're also going to do is we're going to say grid world dot can see So from my current grid position to the player's grid position. The player is not defined here yet. And we will just say on... I'll just copy this over. So player, player, player. And then inside the player, I want to drop a group on you. This is just for testing purposes. I will get rid of this. Groups. I want to add the player to a group called player. Okay, and then I just want to see if the enemy can see the player. So I'm going to kill one of the enemies from the main scene. All of this should be true. So if I move, false. Why false? How did I approach this before? Does this return a vector of points between everything? So let's say print line 2. So I think let me put the enemy on square 0, 0 really quickly because I want to test this. So we're on 0, 0. The player will be on 1, 1. Yeah, I don't want to overwrite that here. Where is your position being set? I swear it is somewhere in here. I guess not. Oh no, am I in the wrong script? I am. It's in here. Currently chucking beer bottles at the wall in the break room. If I didn't know you were talking about Voices of the Void, that would be a much funnier message, but I understand it. Why did the player not go to 1-1? Starting position, because I didn't do a grid. Position equals starting position. There's another issue that we have to talk about eventually, and I'm going to say to do, because I need to fix this, stop entities from overlapping. And there's a couple ways that I can do that. I'm also going to put this in here, actually. So you can see right now, if I am on the enemy and then I start moving, the player can still move. The enemy is not printing anything out because they were removed from the processing order. I want to have either stop the player from walking onto the entity or allow multiple entities to be there. Like in Caves of Qud, you can have multiple entities on the same space sometimes. So we might do that. So what was I doing? Okay, so this needs to be set here. So the player should be at 1-1 now. So if I stand still, there's a line between 0, 0 and 1-1. How am I doing this here? P0 and P1. Oh, there's a lot of things that I was doing in the old code. We're just going to copy this over. Sorry, everybody who wanted to see me problem solve this. We're not doing that. So let's just copy all of this wholesale really quickly. So this code, what this code does is we grab a point and the next point, because we want the enemy to have a certain vision radius. So what we do is we want to step over each of the points to see how long, like how far away we are from the, like whatever it's seeing to have a vision range. We're not going to have a vision range right now, so that doesn't particularly matter. I will drop a to-do here. To-do, add back in vision range. I do like vision range. I think it's a good thing to do. I'm not going to right now. Let me change this to be line 2. Get cell at point. Okay, so get cell is what I called it in the other one. I will just call this get entity. And we don't have blocks movement. I just want to say if cell, then we return false. So what this should do Does putting metal in the microwave do funny things? I need to check that out whenever I play it later. I actually... Dude, you are such like a shithead for thinking, man, I'm gonna put a spoon in the microwave. Okay, so here we go. So... Oh, what is this? I think Caves of Qud moves them to another tile, doesn't it, if you try to overlap them? Yes. If you try to overlap your ally, it swaps your positions. If you try to overlap an enemy, it becomes an attack. And I don't know how I want to handle that, because I might want to have it so, like, if there's a mouse, you can walk onto the same tile, because it's small enough. Or if it's, like, a big enemy, you can't walk onto the same tile, because it's a big dude. Time to try a battery? This man is putting a battery in the microwave and Voices of the Void. He's fucked up. Okay, so now what should happen? Let's say I put another entity into the world. And I put you at 1-1. And I put the player at like 5-1 or something. So one of the enemies should have line of sight. Why did we not move? Where's the player? Where's the enemy? Where's the player? There's the player. Maybe I was just blind. So one of the enemies should see me. So this guy should see me. This guy shouldn't, which is true. I would love to have some sort of like barricades right now, but I don't have those, so we're not doing that currently. Overlappable component. So true. That actually could be a thing. I think the only thing that overlaps in Caves of Qud is items. Yeah, certain items. There are also like big boulders you can't walk onto, even though those are items and not enemies or creatures. So it's like certain things do overlap item-wise. So I'm like, why not entities? Why can't entities overlap? And that is actually kind of handled in my original experiment with the world's longest, not even that long. It's pretty long, but it's not the most long script. It actually does handle that because we have cells, and these cells can have entities on them. So we'll see if that's something that I end up wanting to do. I'm kind of trying to not steal code from that project, but I'm not. That one I'm not going to be able to rewrite the pathfinding. Next up, hard drive. I think health component is useful because you can break things like fences. I'm trying to think of... See, the one thing that I'm like... You can break everything in Caves of Qud. You can break everything. You can break walls. If you have like a pickaxe, you can break whatever. Like certain things are marked as like unbreakable because they have like enough armor, I think. So I kind of just gave every entity a health. For now, we'll see. So let's say this is done. We have line of sight. Another thing that I want to do is I want to refactor this. Now that I'm thinking about it, I want to add walls, and walls are currently not usable because there's no difference between an entity that's an enemy and an entity that's just regular. So I'm going to split the enemy out onto its own class. So we'll say enemy, which inherits from entity. I guess this doesn't even need to be an enemy. It's just, we'll just have that be an enemy for now. On ready, we'll also have, I guess, what do we do currently in the enemy class? I'm gonna open this up in Visual Studio Code so I can have it on a separate monitor, so I can look at the current code. Sorry, what is this? Why don't you use the collision layer for entity interaction? I mean, I might. I have no idea. I mean, the main thing right now is like there's no physics. Collision layers are kind of for physics. So like this is a node 2D with a sprite, and there's no character body 2D. If you didn't know, you actually can create your own layers. So if I do export collision collection, export var, why are we not typing? Export var collision layer. We can have this specified as an int, and you can see it looks normal over here. But if I change this to export flags 2D physics, this now becomes a collision layer export. And there's a lot of other things you can do with this. Like if I want to do 0B1, I can specify bit 1 is set, or I can say 0, 1, bit 2 is set, or sorry, 1, 0, bit 2 is set, and so on. So you can do your own collision layers like that. I might. Who knows? But as of right now, I don't have plans to. Mainly because I don't use physics. How about a video explaining what changes 4.3 did to the tile map? I feel like there are enough videos that are explaining that well. Like... Oh god, who did it? Godot for tile map 4.3. Let me see if I can find it. Coding Quest? Yeah, Coding Quest. I watched Coding Quest video on it. This was a good enough video for it that I don't feel like it really needs to be talked about more. There are also just a bunch of videos out here that already do that. So I don't feel like those are missing anything that my like touch of video creation like style could do anything for. Why is there a single burger on the roof? Why are you on the roof? Why is that the first place that you found a burger? How is that the first place you found a burger? What was I doing? Oh yeah, enemies. Enemies are becoming their own thing. So I wanted to open this up, move it to the side so I could keep it. Why would I do the intended objective? Because there are cool things that happen if you did the intended objective. But my main question is, how is that the first burger you found? Because I'm pretty sure there are easier burgers to find that aren't on the roof. So grid position, I guess starting position's already set through ready, so I'll just call super. And then what else do enemies specifically do? So I guess I'll create the do process function. And inside here, we're going to print the grid stuff. That's fine. The main objective does make really cool shit happen. There's really cool shit in the game. There's one in the oven, too. So, you haven't been to the bathroom yet? In the bedroom? Because I imagine you're looking at the oven in the bedroom. Just open the bathroom. And then I think that's everything I want to steal from the regular entity first. So do process by default will return action entity action.new, which I think by default will return await. Action type none direction. Okay, cool. So I think now, okay, now I need to change the enemies to be enemy script goes here. So I think now the enemy should still work. Yes, okay. So I wanted to add a couple of things to the entity class. And the first one is a var called blocks vision, which by default is false and is also exported. So this should be up here somewhere. We'll organize this later. And then for now, I will say enemies do not, but I would like to make a wall that does. let's start with a new entity called wall. So I'll make a new scene called wall, and then I will attach the entity script to it. I will say blocks vision. I will toss a sprite on it. I will offset the sprite by 8 pixels. Let me catch up with chat, because I see how about a video on how to be a cute blue creature wearing a frog suit. I don't know. I don't think I can. I don't think I have the ability to teach that. Does anyone know what the art style is called in Voices of the Void? It's like low poly, like low fidelity. It's really, I don't know. I really like it though, because it's like, it's gross in a good way. It's definitely stylized. It kind of reminds me of like old Half-Life graphics. I don't know if this is too off topic. I'm still in 4.2. Oh, well, first off, nothing's really off topic around here. But yes, you can get the docs to show. So let's say, let me go to Google really quickly. Yeah, Google Godot, or we'll just say multiplayer. Sure. So the docs are currently reading 4.3. Oh, you already found the answer. Yeah. It's just this. You change this to, sorry, not that. You change this to whatever version. It took too long to answer your question, but you found it. Okay, so the sprite, I'm going to set the sprite to the art kit, do a region, edit region, and I want to find a wall sprite. Let's use... what wall sprite do we go with? I could use just this, but that's kind of ugly, like on its own. I'll just use this for now. And then I can... ooh. I have an idea for something that I want to jot down really quickly, which is world tiles. I would really like there to be a tile map to world tile converter. I would really like it if I could just add a tile map layer here and then draw tiles in and then have those automatically convert to tiles in the world. I think I might do that on Sunday, depending. I don't think that's a thing for today, but we'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and add a wall into the scene. We're just going to put this at 5.5. And I'm going to duplicate this because I feel like it. We're going to make like a wall of 5. Okay, so in the world, this should be there. Cool. Does this... okay, this did something. What did it do? Invalid assignment of property or key weapon with value of type resource on a base object of type ref counted attack action. I don't exactly know what you mean. I noticed a lot of Godot devs online choose to make everything through code because it's more secure instead of using nodes and their properties. I found it a waste. Godot is made with such a way easy. Yeah, I don't know. I usually... so I'm like half and half. I do some weird things where if I can assign signals through code, I usually do signals through code instead of the inspector up here. I don't like using this for signals, but for like properties, yeah, I do it through this all the time. How many people do you think would play an indie dev's first series project? A ton. I mean, it really depends on the project. I mean, if you're looking for people to playtest, you can drop it in the Discord as well, and I'm sure we would find people to playtest, as well as like any other Godot Discord. I'm sure would playtest it. What was I doing? Fuck, I forgot. Okay, so this is broken for some reason. Invalid assignment of property or key weapon with type resource. But this is a weapon, which is a resource. Should I not do it? This takes in a weapon. Let me try just restarting this and see. Okay, that doesn't work. If I attack something that isn't the wall, can it still attack? No. So something broke in the last, like, 10 minutes. Yeah, I don't know what this means. I don't know why. So action is definitely of type action, attack action. It wants a weapon. Weapon is definitely a type basic a weapon, right? Or basic weapon. If I like click on weapon down here, this is a resource. This is not. Is there any sort of circular reference anywhere? So weapon is a resource. No. Calc damage doesn't reference anything. This references attack. Attack doesn't reference anything. So there's no cyclic dependencies. I'm going to do what I do best. Reload project. And pray that this works. If it doesn't, debug time. Cool. Okay. So that doesn't work. I'm also going to print weapon, because I want to see what type this is. So in the output, it is a resource. It is not a type weapon. If I go to resources, sword is of type basic weapon. Axe is of type basic weapon. Reloading this in as a preload. Weapon. Okay, we're doing live debugging now. So weapon is of type resource. Yes. Cool. If I load in the axe as well, does the axe break? Is it just the sword? Let's eliminate that. So axe is of type resource, weapon is of type resource. So this is a problem because it is not correctly getting the resource type. Oh, sorry, hold on. Weird, I prefer to make state machines in Godot in code instead of node-based. Probably a bit of a waste, but I find it more organized. It's definitely not a waste. I mean, if it makes more sense and it's more organized, then can you call it a waste? Because at the end of the day, it's like what makes more sense to your brain, not what makes more sense to most people. So if it makes more sense to write it in code, then write it in code. I personally prefer to do it. I personally prefer to do it node-wise because it kind of lets me separate them and visualize it. So weapon is of type resource, but not weapon. Why? Okay, what if I load this at runtime? Is it an issue of reload? Is it an issue of my code? It could be both. Does it need to be told that it's a weapon? This shouldn't, because it has the type hint. But if I say as basic weapon, does that fix it? It shouldn't need to. No. So this happened once I swapped entities over to enemy. I don't know if that's related. I don't think it is. This printed as a resource, but this is definitely a weapon. Okay, let's say I load this at runtime, like... this. So axe is equal to load as basic weapon. Okay, axe is a weapon. Weapon is not. I don't know. Why are you not referencing yourself as a weapon? Why are you not being seen as a weapon? Because in a perfect world, this should interpret this function. I'm gonna actually, let me rename this to, is there like a rename? No. What does that do? I don't know. Let me rename this to sword, because I want to separate these in terminology. So weapon currently, or sword, is not a weapon, but axe is, because axe was loaded later as basic weapon. But this should return it as a basic weapon. Okay, I'm curious if anyone else has run into this. Let me look up Godot resource not loaded as type. I'm assuming this is it. Oh, is it really as simple as that? I'm gonna be really upset if it's as simple as that. If I go to basic weapon and then I change this to have 2 ins, save it, delete it, resave it, restart the project. And then run it. Does this work? Nope. Okay. Well, that's a problem. Let's reopen that. What else is going on? By order of preload, I don't think that's it. I mean, maybe? Maybe? So axe is being loaded at runtime. I'm specifying it's a basic weapon. I'm loading it at runtime and telling it to be as a basic weapon. I'm pretty sure if I do this, it throws an error on ready. It doesn't. And axe is a basic weapon. So maybe it is just the fact that entity has something going on. See, I tried as a basic weapon. I'm fairly certain this one also did not change it. So it does not change it. It may, in fact, be the fact that something in here is going on. I'm really not sure. Yeah, so if I did it on ready, it also does not work, I don't believe. Let me... so sword... Okay, that does work. Whatever. What if I just make it like a variable? Does that... Do I need it on ready for that? I don't. Sick. Let's find out. No? Okay. And if I just have this... If I just have to load it, that's fine. I don't really care. No? Okay. I just have to load it like that. That is fine enough with me. Well, thank you for the suggestions. I don't know how I didn't accidentally do that earlier in the 12 different ways that I wrote it, but it works. Okay. So what was I doing now? So if I walk into the wall, it tries to hit it. That's fine. Let me remove some of these prints, which is just this, I guess. So we're trying to hit the wall, which we don't really want to, I guess. But if I move behind the wall, now both of these can't see me. Huge. Line of sight is real. Wait, do I have a BRB text that I can toss on a stream? I do. I will be right back. I'm going to use the bathroom really quickly and get something to drink. So give me like a minute or two. Okay, I'm back. I did not get a Dr. Pepper. I do have this cola that I accidentally bought. Because when I was talking to Alice, she suggested dandelion and burdock, which is a drink I've never heard of, and I thought I bought it, but I got just regular cola. So I'm drinking that. I don't know. Oh, this has caffeine. Oh shit, this has caffeine. Whatever. I guess I'm staying up late tonight. I guess, you know what? Before we get back into code, I might as well use this time to talk about the server game. So for anyone who doesn't know, we are doing a server game where we are kind of all working on a game. There are a bunch of people. How many people are interested in the server game, actually? Roles, server game. There are 15 people with the roles. If you want to work on the server game, or if you're interested in it, you can go to channel and roles here, and you can say that you want to participate in it. Everything that goes on here will be related to it. The plan is we're doing a story-based game where you meet people at a bus stop, and I believe based on the conversations you have, you kind of play mini games of their memories. So it's kind of like you diving into their life as you learn about it. It's like something would be maybe you find you're talking to like a farmer, and then the mini game is you rolling hay bales or something fun like that. So if you're interested in that, we have this channel here in the Discord, and we're open to pretty much anyone working on it within reason. Anyways, back to regularly scheduled program. Ad is over. So what was I doing? Enemy was moved over to its own entity now, and we have walls, which is fine enough for now. What do I want to do now? I want to do pathfinding, I think, which is going to be its own problem. So pathfinding, oh god. So let's first look at pathfinding and how it would maybe be implemented. So inside of the entity, the enemy class, I'm just going to create an A-star grid implementation, or an A-star grid variable. And I kind of want to see what this does, because I don't remember. So A-star grid is a variant of A-star 2D that is specialized for partial 2D grids. It is simpler to use because it doesn't require you to manually create points and connect them together. This class also supports multiple types of heuristics. Okay. That sounds like what I want. To use it, you only need to set a region of the grid and optionally set the cell size and then call the update method. To remove a point, it must be set as solid with set solid point. How do I approach level design? I'm the wrong person to be asking that because my levels are fucking atrocious. I will show you. But it's kind of atrocious. That's one of the parts that I actually haven't done nearly as much of. Oh, you're talking about making good-looking levels? You just scattered details or something, I think. For this game, what I did was I came up with a concept that I wanted to do, and then I made rooms. And it looks really ugly. But it's like you start with a simple concept, which is that the light turns on the switches. And then you're like, well, then I can also interact with switches. And then you're like, okay, well, now I also need to interact with lights and switches. So we're talking about, like, level design by, like, mechanics. You start out with something simple, and then you add one layer to it. But if you're talking about making it look good, I have no clue. I'm a programmer. I do not know how to make things look good. So what does this do? How do I use this? So we start by making a new A-star grid. We set the region. So for our case, this would be 0, 0 to grid size. I wonder if it's going to matter what kind of... I don't think that's going to matter. I was going to say, I wonder if it matters whether Y is up or down, but I don't think that's going to end up mattering at all. Cell size doesn't matter. A-star grid to update. Get ID point path from here to here. or point path. Okay, so ID point path looks like it returns the actual numbers, whereas point path looks like it returns the place in the world. So I think I want ID point path, or ID path. So let's do that. Let's start by making a new A-star grid 2D.new. So I think each enemy is going to have their own A-star grid, because what is considered solid for one entity could be considered unsolid for another. So it's gonna, that's kind of gross though, but we'll see if that ends up being an issue. So I think what I can do is I can say A-star grid dot region is equal, was it rect2i, I think? Yeah. So we can go from 0, 0 to grid world dot, do I have like a size? Did I make a size on the grid world? No. We'll do that then. We'll make it 16 by 16 for now. Export our world size vector 2i, and it's going to be 16 by 16. Okay, and then back here, I can reference world size. Is that something I can do now? Okay. Or actually, I can probably do vector 2i 0, 0, and then just pass in world size. That works. Okay. So how do I get solid cells? Or let me look at the implementation again. So we set the size, and then we do update, and then we get a path to that. I think I'll worry about making things solid later. I think I just want to make a path to something. So I can do an A-star grid update. This renders it in. And then if we can see, so let's say like, if we can see the player, I want to query the grid and walk towards the player. So we'll say A-star grid dot get ID path from grid position to player dot grid position. What is a partial path? If there's no valid path to the target and allow partial path is true, no, I don't want to do that. So let's do this. So this should return path. This returns like an array of vector 2i. It does. So I can just grab the target point is equal to path and then the first object of the path. Right? Let me double check that. I want to double check what it returns. This could be bad. This would be easier with just one enemy. So we're killing this guy. Okay, so I imagine the path. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this should be spot 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. So I think the path would either return the starting position here or this position. So either 0, 0 or 0, 1. Or maybe we go down first and it's 1, 1. Maybe. So what does it return? 0, 0. Okay, so 0, 0 is the current location. So we're going to say path.top front. There we go. So we get the first one is where we want to go. So now I will say target point is path sub 0. Let's see, what is it? Is it my position minus the path position? No, it is grid position minus path position. This should give me a target point, aka a direction. And then I can say right here, if we can't see and we want to do this early return. Otherwise, we start looking at the path. So for the path, we'll say action new or action entity action dot move dot new. Sorry. In the crazy math algo, I recommend making it draw a line of the tiles it's using. It will be useful later for stuff like aiming. Actually, that's a great question. How do you draw a custom line in Godot? Is that something I can do? Go for custom line. Can I do that? Custom drawing. I've been to this before, apparently. Oh shit. Okay, hold on. Oh, I see your message, Cosmic Sandwich. How's it going? I'm glad you can tune in even if on mobile. Do you encrypt your games when you release them? I've seen many games get destructed and just open to the Godot engine like Buttshot Roulette, for example. I actually don't think encrypting them protects against that all that much. It does like a little bit of protection, but if you want to encrypt your games, if you want to fully encrypt them, I think you have to use GD extension with your own custom something. Maybe. I'm not sure. I personally don't encrypt my games because I don't care if people open them up and mod them or like read the like source code. It doesn't bother me personally, so I don't. So let's draw a line. So let's see. For the enemy, I guess I can do this with the path. Or maybe I can do it with the line. I don't know. We'll see. Would it be hard to... Sorry, the Minecraft music came on. Did you guys see the Minecraft movie trailer? And if so, what were your opinions of it? Because all I can think of whenever I'm hearing this song is the Jack Black. I am placing blocks and shit and playing fucking Minecraft. Color dot red. Width. What is the default width? It says -1, but I don't know what that means. I'm just gonna say 2.0. Just in case. So does this draw a line? No, it doesn't. Because probably my fault. Dude, the trailer is so... It looks like such a train wreck, but I can promise you I'm going to the theaters. I am watching it. Like opening night, I'm going to be there. And I hope that it's like the FNAF movie, because I don't know if it was the same for everyone, but everyone who went to see the FNAF movie opening night, at least where I went, all knew it was going to be terrible, or maybe not terrible, but all of it, everyone was kind of having fun with it. So, like, everyone in the theater would react, or, like, someone would say a joke. And, like, any other movie, if people talking and making jokes, you'd be like, this is fucking terrible. But the FNAF movie, everyone was just, like, it was fun. Everyone had a good time. How did I make the download faster? Yeah, it's going to be slow until you get upgrades for it. But that's when you set up a download and then you go do your daily task of checking on the satellites. Yeah, the FNAF movie was so fun. All right, so what's up with this? Sorry, now that I'm thinking about this, what am I doing? Perform action. The enemy is supposed to be returning an action, but you're not. Return action. Maybe the enemy moves. You don't. Debug. What's wrong? Drawing is only allowed inside the node's draw function? Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Can I... Okay, I guess since I made this accessible from anywhere, I can just do funk raw. Not here. This dude is not the next pirate software. This dude is a fraud. You can call draw by doing Q read on. I'd imagine this runs every frame, right? Does this not run every single frame? It doesn't. Really? Okay. I didn't know that. So, like, if I move around... Really? Huh. I think it is really funny that I have 3 chats currently. Of these 2 chats here. And then a chat that contains a single person in Discord. Now, my ass is not the next pirate software. I'm like actually a game developer. I'm just kidding. I believe he's actually a game developer. But there are some people who think that he is not a game developer. There are some people who think he's a fraud. Dude, those videos are so insane, by the way, JW. I don't get it. I really don't get how people can look at someone like that and then be like, yeah, this guy's just lying about everything. And it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean he's lying? He literally streams like every day. You can just go and look at his streams and tell that he's not lying? Like, what? Oh, hey, Alex. I'm glad my videos helped you start using Godot. I'm going to say something really quickly. It surprises me whenever people like tell me they're like, dude, I've never used Godot. I watched your videos. They helped so much. Because my videos are not made for people who don't use Godot. I kind of, like, whenever I'm writing down the script, whenever I'm recording them, I kind of assume, like, a decent level of knowledge of Godot. But then, like, people show up and they're like, oh, this helps me. I've never used Godot. I've never coded before, but this helps me out so much. I'm like, what the hell? So... yeah, I don't know. Like, he streams for 20 hours. You can literally just go look at his stream and be like, yeah. So he says he streams for 12 hours, but I don't believe him. And it's like, what do you mean you don't believe him? You can just go to his channel and pull up the VODs. And then, surprise. Look, there's every one of his videos. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't believe him? Like, just... what is there to believe? I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay, what was I doing? I was queuing redraw. So am I just gonna do... okay, well then a new question. So if I do path finding util dot get line 2... I also want to double check. Can one of you send a message in chat the second you hear this? Because I want to know what the delay is today, because I think it's on low delay. So from grid position to player dot grid position. Heard? Okay, so it's like 30 or 40 seconds. Okay, that's not that bad. So this doesn't draw... oh, because I'm not drawing anything, duh. Heading out, gotta touch grass. Goodbye, Cosmic, have a good one. I'm glad you could at least stop by for a little bit. I don't know if you're gonna be here on Sunday, but Sunday stream will be around noon, not at 5 p.m. because I'm not streaming at 5 p.m. on a Sunday. I want to do it a little bit earlier. So I can do draw line, and... oh god, how was I doing this? So var... points equals that for key in points. Or no, I need to get the next 2 lines. So I in range points dot length dot size -1 var po equals points sub I, or P1 equals points sub I plus 1. So this should get 2 points. Then inside of this, I want to do P0, P1, color dot red, and float 2.0. I think that should draw something. Oh, cool. So it did draw something. It just didn't draw what I wanted to. Because these points should be multiplied by 16. Because that's the grid size. Because each point is 16 by 16, not 1 by 1. Okay. Whoa, that actually looks sick. That... Is that what the art looks like, or is that Godot doing that? Hold on. Do you have like a wonky eye inside of Sprite? No, that's Godot doing that. Anyone know a resource that can help me plan out the node hierarchy and understand it from a higher level? I don't know if there's any specific ones, but I would just... Let me see if I can do it in real time. Go to GitHub. You can find a game in language. Can you do language? Yes, you can do language. GD script. And then you should be able to find projects of any kind of type that you want to. If you aren't able to find any videos, or if anyone doesn't have any to recommend, they'll at least you would be able to find people's projects who are in GD script in Godot and look at how they structure things. So these are all open source games written in Godot. So I would highly recommend that if you can't find any videos. I know GD Quest also does... a lot of their stuff is open source as well, and they tend to do things relatively well, like structure-wise. Let me offset this 8x8. Oh, that doesn't work. Invalid operands. Okay. My fault. You're right. Why would I be able to add a vector 2 to a vector 2i? I mean, it makes sense, but... Okay, cool. So we have that. Pathfinding works. Cool. So... what do I do? Sorry, I never thought of that. Been thinking about doing things similar. Since I like reverse engineering things, that seems to be one of the best ways to find practical solutions. Yeah, I would say that. Also, not saying that I'm like perfect in any way, but if you do want any sort of example projects, I tend to make my game jam games public. So like, well, GDTuber is not mine. That's one that I forked. But like, for example, Pirate Jam 14, it's not perfect. It's definitely like, it is a game jam game. But if you wanted to see like an example of how someone could, I do make a lot of my game jams public. Like, do I have another one? I guess not. Maybe not. I haven't done a lot of game jams recently, but... And I know a lot of people also make theirs public. I think Godot users tend to make theirs a little bit more publicly available source code-wise than other game engines because it's free and open source and people like that. So what was I doing? I wanted to call this every time there's a process. So I would say Q redraw. So now, whenever the player moves... Oh, that is so fucking sick. And then you can't see, and then it can see. Oh, that is insane. Look at that. Who wrote that down? Who told me to do drawing a line? I want to say it was Alice, but I don't know. Ain't seeing that shit. Where the hell is it? It was you? Okay, I thought it was. I can't find it, but... Oh, goodbye, JW. Have a good one. But we just made it so that we draw a line whenever we move. This looks so sick. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What? Out of bounds index 0. Something happened. Why did something happen? You know what? I know. Okay, I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. So I believe the player just moved to position 1616, but the highest position in the grid is 1515 because it's size 16 and starts at 00. That's my guess. Let me... Player. Do we have... Grid position is 1616. Yes, so that is out of bounds of our 1515 A-star grid. Will I implement the enemy remembering the player's position, try to find him after losing him? Yes, absolutely. And honestly, we're not that far away from that. Because I guess I didn't split pathfinding up to anything, but that is kind of just part of pathfinding. Would just like have memory. One thing that I would like to also do is maybe like if the player steps to the left and goes behind a wall and the enemy saw him move to the left, like the enemy moves to that spot as well instead of just the last scene place, but like the last scene that they moved to. How much of a change is the new Godot update? Are you talking about 4.3? Or are you talking about from 3 to 4? Because from 4.2 to 4.3 is not a big change in the slightest. Like, at all. Like, I almost guarantee that if I open up a single one of my... any of my 4.2 projects that haven't been open in 4.3, I'm pretty sure they would just all work. Hell, I bet I could probably open up a bunch of 4.3 projects, or 4.0 projects, and they would work. Like, here we'll find out. So I've got a 4.1 project I'm opening right now. We're gonna see what it does. I'm gonna hit play. We'll see. Okay, it works. 4.1 to 4.3 works. Ignore how ugly this project is. It was a little test project that I made, but... Which one had changed how parallax works? Yeah, it works. I don't think it'll break. Parallax layer and tile map are still in the project. Parallax. So, parallax background and parallax layer exists. Parallax 2D is the new one. It's just deprecated. They still exist. So, I really hope Godot will get better in web dev. 4.3 is definitely going in the right direction. Absolutely agree. I really hate how it feels to run a Godot project, like especially in... Oh yeah, actually, I had the fucking message right here. This told me what it is. I just figured it out on my own. Godot 4.3 is really nice because it takes care of a lot of the issues with web dev, like performance reasons. Like, whenever I was doing Ludum Dare, the web dev wasn't, or the web export wasn't working well. So I actually upgraded to 4.3 while it was still in beta, just so I could go into the export settings, wherever the hell it's at, and set web to single threaded. Oh god, what was I doing? Sorry, I keep getting distracted and forgetting. So this should actually fix this now. So yeah, there we go. Oh, that actually looks so sick. Just like even that. Just like seeing it lose track of the player and then snap back to it. Even though it's not doing anything right now, even though it's just sitting there, is so fucking cool. All right, so let's do this. So why are we not moving is actually the question. What is target direction? Print target direction. -10. Okay, so I actually did it wrong. So it's just grid position. It's... What is this, a path? Path minus grid position returns grid position pointing towards path. Okay. So you know what? We even have path. Uh-oh. Oh. I can fix that. Minus global position. Yeah, I won't format that. No? Oh, you need to be a vector 2i. There we go. So it doesn't do it right now, but I would love to. I think right now, yeah, so this guy actually gets stuck because we're not adding walls into the world yet. So we should do that. So let's... Oh god, how are we going to do that? I think I kind of want to delegate that to the world, which feels very... Maybe that'll be weird. Let me toss down my quick ideas just to see if this makes sense. So the enemy will ask world for a star grid update. What the world will do is the world will loop over all the entities it has, loop over entities, and then inside of that it will ask the enemy if that should be blocked. And if it is blocked, then we delegate whether it should be blocked to the enemy, but the actual A-star grid update gets handled by the world because it has access to all the entities, and we don't want to specifically reach into every single grid cell from the enemy. What music player are you using in the bottom right? I wish it was a simple answer. This is called Foobar. And Foobar has an add-on that you can add, which outputs your currently playing song. Let me find it. To a JSON file. This JSON file contains all the information about the song. And there's an add-on source inside of OBS, which reads that and renders this little window thing here that I can move around and scale. So that is an OBS web input. Unfortunately, it is not a simple answer, but that's what it is. It is a Rube Goldberg machine of music. Okay. What time is it now? Oh my god, it's already 7:20. Okay, so I've got about like 40 minutes less of streaming left, I would say. So let's try to knock out, like, just enemy pathfinding. If I can knock out enemy pathfinding right now and get them following the player, if I can knock these two out, I'll be happy. This won't include, like, remembering the player's last position. Maybe it will. We'll find out. It's 1:20 a.m. for me. Dog, you need to go to sleep. Also, where is that Europe? I'm assuming somewhere in Europe. Is Europe even that far away? Time zone wise? I don't know. Okay, so let's see. So the grid, I would like to say this func update pathfinding or an entity A star grid 2D. So I should probably annotate some of these functions, but maybe not. So what this is going to do is we're going to pass in the enemy. So the enemy will say update pathfinding, pass itself in its grid. Then we'll loop over all of the entities. So for, I think I'm doing this elsewhere already. I might as well copy that code. This. I'll adopt specifics here. So if entity equals So if the current entity equals the entity that passed itself in, then we're going to avoid it. We're going to say, yeah, sure, whatever. Although I guess we should also say a star grid dot is set point solid. Dot grid position. Ooh, okay. Now actually, here's a new problem. Hold up, sorry, I need to catch up with chat. It's 2:20 in the morning. Dog, you guys are up like. Are you talking about 2:20 in the morning? You are up so fucking late. Love the stream. Been getting into game dev myself, so it's cool to see how someone else tackles the project. I appreciate that you're here. I try to watch game dev streams myself, but you're chatting in them, which is braver than I am, because I usually just end up lurking. But so maybe what I do is I say 4x in a star grid. I'm gonna see how performant this is. We'll see. I think this should be pretty performant. So can I get a size? Yeah. So for x in size.x, 4y in a star grid dot size dot y. And then inside of that, I will say a star grid dot set point solid vector 2i xy false. So by default, everything is not solid. Then we'll loop over the entities. If it's the same entity that we just passed in, we're going to continue. If e dot is passable, or sorry, if entity dot is passable e. So this will kind of allow each entity to have its own passable notification. So for example, an enemy, there are certain things that will never be passable, like a wall. I guess like by default, like if e dot blocks movement, we'll add that in a second. If e dot blocks movement or entity dot is passable e, then we will say a star grid dot set point solid e dot e dot grid position. Yes. I'm gonna make this function really quickly, and then I see there's a couple messages in the chat that I wanna read, but I'm like very focused on what I'm writing right now. So I'm sorry if I'm ignoring you. Is passable e entity pool return true. So by default, we can pass through everything. Okay. Yes. And then at the end of this, I will say a star grid dot update. So this will loop over all of the A star grid. We'll set everything to solid or to not solid. Then we'll look through all the entities that are stored. If any of them block movement by default, or if they are passable, then they will stop. It'll set the solid. Okay, cool. Let me read this now. Okay. Are you using a navigation agent for your pathfinding? They have a debug flag that you can toggle to, and they'll show a red line like you were wanting. I'm not. I'm using A star grid because everything is grid-wise, and there's no collision or anything like that. Because everything is like grid-locked. Which I did end up getting this. So that works. Alright, next thing. I'm here purely for the stream. Usually I'd be dreaming my 40th dream. Well, that's cool that you're here. Don't feel like you have to be up for them, though. I mean, they're not that important. You can always watch reruns. I'm glad that you find them enjoyable, though. I'm mostly here to see the dev process. You're not familiar with Godot's API. Don't know where to start in terms of coding. Yeah, there's a lot of things in the docs. I would recommend the your first game. I don't know if you've done this. I'm sure everyone has told you to. This is like a really good example project that just tells you everything. Like, you make a scene, you set it up. Here's how you can make the player move around. It tells you just enough to where you can get in and start doing things on your own. I guess you'd also want to figure out if the enemy should swap places when moving because they come to attack and will be swapping back and forth in enemy group context. I am going to defer that to, like, another stream version of me. I'm going to say future me will worry about that. Is it alright to ask for advice? Always. Yeah. Yeah, you can always ask for advice. Do I use any plugins? Not usually. Except for if I'm doing 3D, I'll use Godot Jolt. But yeah, I don't use any plugins unless I know about them and they work well for my use case. I usually build things by, like, hand. But alright, so does this work? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, enemy, you have a pathfinding grid. So here's the region. I'm gonna say grid world dot update pathfinding, and it's gonna pass in self and a star grid. So we're just gonna do it one time at the start of the world. So this should hopefully cause the enemy to walk around something. I think before that would have failed. Oh, the enemy just killed itself. Fuck. Okay, so the enemy can't see because I think the line would draw here. I'm kind of curious. I want to do... Ooh, we have debug errors. Grid is not an initialized call the update method. Wait, I have to call update before setting a point solid? Oh, shit. That's not good. Is there a way to set, like, just a bunch of these? Estimate cost, compute cost, size, region, offset, jumping enabled, diagonal mode. Ooh, okay, that's a problem, I think. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a problem, but I would much rather be able to set a bunch of points as solid and then have it update all at once, but I guess not. I guess I understood that wrong. Interesting. So I guess back to enemy. Instead, we will update first before calling that. I guess that's fine. That's just not how I expected it to work. So if I move here, you can't see me. I want to... Can I add like a debug? Can I just draw this all the time? Can you redraw? Just do Q redraw every time. Yeah, okay. A big project I would want to do eventually would be a roguelike because they are easily updatable, so I can still work on it if life gets in the way. Do you recommend a different type of project? What kind of roguelike are you talking about? Are you talking about like a Vampire Survivors roguelike? A roguelike like this? A roguelike like Enter the Gungeon? Binding of Isaac? Because certain roguelikes, I would say, are probably pretty easy to come back to. Like something like Vampire Survivors would maybe be a little bit easier to come back to than something like a Caves of Qud project. But if you want like an easy project to be able to pick up and put down whenever you want, then I would say a platformer, which is like maybe the lamest answer because platformers are just straightforward usually. But I would say that those are usually pretty easy to pick up if you haven't touched them in like a year. Also, hello Mav, how's it going? Alright, so right now, the enemy can see me, which is fine. The enemy cannot see me, which means they will not move down. But it looks like we're avoiding... The enemy killed itself again, but it looks like we're avoiding the grid path now. And I guess I can double check that. So instead of doing... and see, I'm just going to... We're just going to set this to true. And see equals true. So this should always walk towards the player now. Look at that. Look at that. It follows the player exactly. Okay, cool. I love that. I love that. Let's see. I was thinking of a roguelike that mixes the verticality of something like Taro. I don't know what that is. Let me look that up before I speak on it. Taro. Oh shit, this game. The Downwell. Yeah, I know that one. With level generate. Is that what you're talking about? Is this a roguelike? With level generation similar to Isaac, you would get specific items in that run to unlock new paths. So one cool thing about level generation with Isaac is it would teach you about procedural generation that doesn't use like full procedural generation, because Isaac uses like pre-built rooms that get stuck together. I wonder how they made the randomized lore in Caves of Qud. I don't know, but I think that they just use like a bunch of templating things, like some super deep templating, like an object can have like a history event tied to it, and the history event can have like other history events tied inside of those, and then those kind of like resolve upwards. I'm gonna show a video really quickly because Sebastian Legue idea generator. Is it this? I think. So in this video, I want to say it's something similar to this, where it.
So I looked up how to disable because
let's see.
Description to important category is the templates.
So it templates things, and then inside of those templates, it'll resolve a part of that template, which could also introduce new templates. It's like this, where let's see. Yeah, so the setting introduces a new template with types that could be like dropped in, and so it just kind of like rolls in new templates over and over until it's done.
I thought it might be fun to share.
I think it might be something like that, but like a very deep version. But don't ask me about Dwarf Fortress because that shit is magic. Dwarf Fortress's lore is unbelievably deep. Let's see. I just want to say your finite state machine tutorial helped me a lot, man. Thanks. I'm really happy it helped you. I'm going to say this every time someone brings it up. The code in that video is so unfortunate, but I'm very happy that people are able to work past that and get something out of the video. So let me go ahead. Pathfinding and player following are done. And we have 24 minutes to spare. So what do we do? Let's, instead of can see, let's see if we have a last scene position. So what we want to do, if we can see, so we want to say last scene position equals player.grid position. No. Yes. And then when we can't see, if our position grid position does not equal the last scene position, I guess I can do how do I want to do this? I might put this all into a function somewhere. I played Dwarf Fortress, and sadly the art was not for me. I couldn't get into it like Caves of Qud. Since everyone says Dwarf Fortress is peak in its genre, I think that put me off those games. Dwarf Fortress... Okay, so... You don't have to play Dwarf Fortress. You don't have to play Dwarf Fortress to enjoy it, and I would highly recommend, if you are interested in those types of games at all, and you find that you cannot play through it, or it doesn't something that you enjoy like sitting there doing, because I don't like colony management, but I really like Dwarf Fortress, I would say watch this guy. His name is Krugsmesh, and what he does is he does Dwarf Fortress like adventures, and instead of doing like a 14-hour video, what he does is he'll set up like a, we're not going to go to episode 10 because that might have spoilers if you end up watching it. He has these sort of like premises, sets them up, goes in, goes over the lore of the world, and then shows any notable events with like different drawings on top of it. So if you want to enjoy Dwarf Fortress in a way without playing it, I would watch Krug Smash. And because it is really well made videos on Dwarf Fortress that is enjoyable. And kind of like does the imagination for you. Anyways, back to this. So I would say that instead of doing all of this here, I would really like to just do func get target towards player, or get target to. Pause vector 2i. Action. What is this? Entity action. So actually, instead of get target to, I will say move toward target. Move toward pause, I should say. Target would be like a node. Pause is like the actual position. So here, what I can do is after all of this, I can drop these here, drop that there, return the action, return, move toward pause, player.grid position. Or in this case, we could just do last scene position. Always making stories from the lore of the game. Well, that's so cool. It really is, because I could not play Dwarf Fortress for more than like 2 hours. Because it is just like, there's so much shit to do. And it doesn't, nothing really happens unless you cause it to, or unless something organically comes out. And it can feel terrible, like losing a fortress. But if you're watching this guy who already knows how to play all of it, he goes over everything that could be important that you would enjoy from your playthrough. And it's just, it's really nice. It's really, really nice. Let's see. So action. So here. So if the grid position isn't the same as the last scene position, then we want to do move toward pause last scene position. And we want to return that. So what this should do is if we can't see the player, then we also check if we have a last scene position to go to. I should also double check and last scene position does not equal null. Except this should be reversed because short circuiting. So if we have a last scene position and we aren't at the last scene position, then we want to move towards it. Otherwise, then we will set last scene position to null. Not be so, okay, I lied. You can't even assign that to null, so that's fine, I guess. Sure. We'll play around with that later. We'll just set the last scene position to the current position then. The last scene position equals grid position. So if we're not at that target position, we move towards it. Otherwise, we just wait. Then, if we can see the player, we store their last scene position and we move towards it. So what this should do is if the player runs behind a wall, the enemy shouldn't stop moving immediately. The enemy should keep going until it reaches that spot. So for example, the enemy should stop here, I'd imagine. While the enemy's still moving, that's a problem. What the fuck was that? Move toward pause. Last scene direction, pause. Oh, because I'm still passing in the player's direction. There it is. Found it. So now it stopped one short. Why did it stop one short? Okay, I think I know why it stopped one short. So if I walk out, does it walk into me? It does. Last scene position is the player's grid position. I don't even know how to pronounce your name. Trio? Try? I'm just gonna call you Try. How's it going, Try? I need some advice. I'm trying to balance game dev and gaming, but in the country I live in, we only have electricity for 2 hours. Any thoughts? So let's see. What could be my thoughts? I'm not super qualified to answer that, and by not super qualified, I mean I'm not qualified in the slightest. I guess it kind of comes down to which one do you have priority over? Like, what do you want to do more of? And that doesn't mean if you want to do game dev in the long run more, only do game dev, but try to kind of, like, if you're playing a game that has like queue times, like, hopefully not, because that would be a terrible way to spend the 2 hours. But if you have that sort of downtime, you could do game dev on the side, or if you're like, if you want to set aside certain days to kind of do game dev, you can do that. I would say try to strike a balance and decide how important game dev is to you versus gaming. Probably. So Trio is your name? Like Mario, but try? Instead of Mar? Trio? Okay, what was I doing? So the problem... I just want to print this out. So player.grid position. So... Oh. Hold on. So I just noticed something. And I don't know if other people noticed it. So if I move down to here, is there not line of sight? There should be. It didn't update though, is the problem. But if I stand here, it sees me. And then we'll move. Does it not have line of sight of that? Sorry, I'm going to be on this bug for a minute. I'm going to have you stand still for just a second, buddy. Do me a favor. Return entity action.new action type.wait. So this should just make him stand still. Yes. Okay, so... Huh. I guess because he can't see me, it doesn't count until he moves up. So I guess that's fine. Kind of. I guess then what I could do is I could add like a could see player, and set that to false, and then this is such like a terrible way to do this. So if we could see the player, then we want to store that as saying could see equals true. And if we can't see, if we could see, then we want to set the last seen position to the player's new position. And then set could see equal to false. I guess that, sorry, this is could see player. This feels like a band-aid solution, because it's like, if you can't see, but you could see, then do this, and now you couldn't see, you know? That probably works, is my guess. So, like, they can see me here, they can't see me now. I guess, let me move this back up, delete this, save this. So he'll move towards me. He could see me, he should move to this spot now. Yes, okay. Fuck it, that works. Alright, we've got the extra thing of it kind of sees where the player went. Do you have any tips for bug fixing larger scale projects? If some error is caused by a script implementation in a completely different file, I've had this kind of trouble when making websites. It's a complete headache to fix it, takes me hours. It's inevitable, unfortunately. The larger a project is, usually the larger the fixes are going to be for a bug. The only thing is, I don't even know. It would kind of be just like trace down where the bug is caused, but that's like a hard thing to say. I don't know. It's very much like you have to read through the code. You have to figure out what everything is doing. And there's kind of like, I guess there's like an extra sense that you end up picking up from it of just like, this issue feels familiar. I've seen this in a different project, and then you kind of like step through and see it. But we also, I'm going to toss this down really quickly. For the enemy AI, goes to player's last known position. So I think the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a vision radius. So I'm going to say export var vision range. I'm going to say it's 5 for now. Then in can see from and to, we will return, I guess this doesn't take in the entity, but I guess we can take in the entity as well or something. Do I want to do that? I think I'll do that. I'll say e entity. For now, we'll do enemy. That's actually true. Yeah, someone actually did bring that up. Unit testing is really good for larger projects. Unfortunately, unit testing is also really, like, unit tests are really lame to write in terms of, like, doing something. Unit testing doesn't really feel like you're doing anything because it kind of, you're just like, oh, well, I'm setting myself up to make things easier in the future. I'm not adding anything new currently. So it does feel kind of rough writing unit tests, I won't lie. But, you know, it's probably your best option. That is right. So for this, we're going to pass in that. And if you redraw, I think that's fine for now. So this can't see the player until the player gets within 5 movement tiles of it. So I think the movement tiles are technically, like, this is 1, 2, 3. I don't even know. Let's see. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think I need to be one more space close to the enemy, and then it can see me. Okay, cool. So the enemy can see me. And I think one thing I would like to do eventually, so let's do vision range. So that's there. I'm going to also add a new goal, which is I want to add like reaction time. So I don't want enemies to react immediately. It should take them a turn or 2, depending on the enemy, to actually have some sort of reaction, so that it's not unfair to the player. Because let's say, for example, like in this project, let's say, oh, what the hell? Ew, this crashes sometimes. I don't know why. I think it's because they were too close, but so let's say, for example, in this world, let's say the enemy is, or the player's right here, and the enemy is right here. If the player walks to this space, the enemy would immediately get line of sight and is able to attack them that turn. So I'd want to add reaction time so it's not an immediate surprise on the player, and you have at least 1 turn of advantage, or at least 1 turn to kind of figure out what you're doing. I think that's one thing I want to add. But we are coming up on the 3-hour mark, so I am going to find someone to drop any amount of Twitch viewers on. And I still need to figure out how rating works on YouTube. Oh, wait, is Quella's not live anymore? Dev. Are you not live? You're not live, but Code is. I think that means that they're about to end stream. So let's drop you onto Foxen. This is not YouTube, or this is not coding. This guy plays Mario Maker. I am dropping any amount of my Twitch viewers on this guy. So let's do /raid Foxen. That's his username, right? Yes. /raid Foxen. And then I'm also going to drop a link in YouTube chat if you want to check him out. Go say hi to him. I watch him a lot. This is one of the game dev guys that I watch. He does do game dev. But on Sunday, noon o'clock, I may end up putting up a notification on YouTube. If you also want to get stream notifications, you can join the Discord. The Discord is in the description. There are a bunch of people that seem to have joined during the stream, so if you want to do that, I would highly recommend joining it. Again, really quickly before we go, if you are interested at all in any capacity, we have a server game going on. The theme is a bus game. It is not a game jam. It is a community project that everyone can work on. There are a few different leads. There are a few different threads if you want to go here and talk about ideas, if you want to talk about things. There's not currently a Godot project, but there will be. So you would need 3D modelers, artists, music people, coders, play testers, bug testers, accessibility people, quality assurance, anything. If you are at all interested in this, it's also something that you can put on your resume because you're part of a community project. You're working on something for free, open source, for the betterment of whatever. So I would highly recommend checking it out if you have any desire at all. Anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and raid this. And then we are going to end stream. So catch you guys later.